Hello guys, and today you meet me at R&H Tune-In to go and get the lift kit finally fitted on the Volvo XC70. So here's a little look at the lift kit here. Look at that, beautiful. And what we are fitting is a full cross-country performance kit, which includes the front and rear rubber spacers for the spring lifts, and also the complete SUBFRAME spacer set as well, which is a 1/2 inch spacer set, which is for the rear and front subframe. Along with that as well, it comes with the additional longer bolts and rear shock spacers to complete the kit. So let's get going, let's get it installed, and I really hope you enjoy this video.
What needs to go on first?
This is the raw first reaction.
There's your bolt.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I can put my head in there, mate, yeah. I'm hoping it does settle down, because that is actually bonkers.
What's the mortgage on that a month?
Alright guys, let's get straight in. This is how you remove the scat panel and the wipers. You need to remove these so you can access the nuts for the top of the shop.
I'm doing what you're doing, mate. I'm just going to put on the subtitles. This is Harry. He just wants to get his fucking ass out. He's not doing anything, nothing to do with safety. Make sure nothing's wobbling. Make sure the pads are on correctly on the jacking points. Go at the back. Do it at the back as well. So we're going to do the fronts first. Do you want to explain what we're getting first, Lewis? What we're going to be putting on?
So it's a bit of a crazy one because we're actually replacing all of the suspension here, which you might not be doing in this video. So we will show you, first of all, now how to actually install the spacer. So this is going to be done the wrong way around.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is we're going to get all of this removed. So the whole shock assembly, lower arm. What did you want to attack first?
So we work on anything first. You're going to clean the surface area first, and then we'll go through a bit of AC90, which is a bit of penetrating fluid, just to clean up all the threads so we don't end up stripping stuff on the way through. But this is me cleaning it. You don't have to do it in this particular order, but this is the order I'm just doing it in. So this here is your ABS sensor / wheel speed sensor. Get these off, flathead screwdriver, push that little tab down, pull it up. Lovely. Be careful of these because they like to break, and then that'll be another job, is buying an ABS sensor. Stick it up in there somewhere. We'll zip tie that up in a minute.
Yeah. You can see the condition of the actual body of the car. That
Yes, actually really clean, to be fair. This is the first time I've actually seen this, and to be fair, Liz, you've done a banging job on it.
Compared to this is what it was like, as you can tell.
Yeah. Did you do a treatment before?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Next one, while we're here, we'll just pull off the brake line. Right there, that'll come off.
So you're basically just removing all the ancillaries before you take off the main
it.
bits. The only other thing to mention on mine is, or what I did have, is I do have the electrically adjustable shocks, which is called 4C. So we'll make sure that we unplug this when we come to remove this all as well, which is the plug for it.
Best way to take these off are go with an impact. I've only got a little impact driver here. I'm going to see if I do it. If it won't, I'll have to get the bigger one on it. That. Next mission's try to get that out.
Yeah.
So, as we're going to be reusing it, stick that nut and bolt back on. Stick the nut back on, sorry. So, because if you hammered that without the nut, it'd just like banana the end out, and then you'll have to end up cutting this, and then it's just takes ages.
Not a banana I want to be eating.
No, it would be very nice. Get a hammer quick.
So yeah, guys, this is going to be super exciting. This whole assembly is going to be changed. This has been on the car since it was new as well, so it's done a very good innings, I must say.
So, a little wiggle, it's off.
Yeah.
Tap on the side, that should come out now.
He wants a bit more vibration. The other thing you can use is a separator tool, which would sit inside here and help you space the gap between them to open it up.
So sometimes you do have to use heat on these. If not, just get a nice big lump hammer, knock them around the side really hard, and what will happen is it will drop down like that. Unscrew it, and then they come out like that. Obviously, I don't know if Lewis has said he is to get an inner and outer track rod. If they're floppy like that, do change the inner, and obviously wiggle that about if that can move freely.
Yeah, don't make it any worse.
Yeah, see, like the boot.
Yeah.
It's almost that. Obviously, if an MOT looked at that, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a fail, but it has split the tiniest little bit.
Another thing to add to the list.
But yeah, if they're what they're meant to do is be a little bit stiff. They are meant to move, but not like that.
That's actually. Man's just wiggling it around here.
Yeah. Then we'll do that one.
You go for drop link next to you. Drop link time.
Reusing these, but obviously if you're just doing the top spacer, you're going to be reusing these, so just make sure you can unplug them down here. Just make sure you don't pull this out, otherwise it'll be fault code central. So I'm pretty sure they're mole grips, or they're grip clamps, or people call them things. The squeezy things. Squeeze them on the back of the
drop link removal
drop
clamps.
That's it, that'll do. Yeah, they are today. Get your gun on. And that comes off nice and lovely. Perfect.
And then there's the holder.
And then obviously you're going to want to keep that as well, and I think we are actually, because obviously we're replacing the whole shop.
There you go.
So sometimes there's little cutouts there, so usually you can get a spanner behind them like that, and they're usually like a 17mm spanner or sometimes a 19, so not do that. Sometimes when you do this, if you grip too hard you can split the boot. Another way to check if these are damaged when they're in the air with the drop link on, if you get a pry bar under here, and if you wiggle that, and then if you see actual movement in this, like move up and down without it moving, then you need to replace it as well.
That bush on that lower arm's looking grotty as well, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, no, it's not the best, is it? Luckily, we're changing that.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning to say while we're there with the drop links that they do have a lot of them do have an Allen key slot on the end, so you can do it the other way with like a spanner.
9 times out of 10 they do round though.
Yeah, so it's worth mentioning.
C90 does help you out in it. Does help you out in these situations. The only other way, mate, will you shut up?
Oh, you record?
This is going to stay in. Look, this is the boss. There you are. Show him the boss.
Boss.
Look,
Grand fromage, the big cheese I am.
He's an idiot.
Dairy Dunker.
Yeah. Dipstick. Best way I find, I call them small, medium or large. You want to get this medium ratchet. I think it's the 3/8 that is or something.
That's
like that.
a 3/8, yeah.
3/8, yeah. I didn't pass maths in school, that's why I'm a mechanic. Same thing, gets a bit awkward. Got to use a bit of manpower. And that, watch your hands because that hurts.
Almost go flying.
Yeah. And obviously we've clamped it down there as well. So
what we've worked out is if your Volvo's 18 years old or it's done over 100,000 miles, that everything's going to need replacing.
right, to remove the connectors from the adaptive shocks, flathead screwdriver, best way, pull it out of there, slide it out, get that in the back, push down, that come out lovely. Usually you got to give it a good pull because it's full of wherever you go. Where do you go? everywhere in this it looks like.
Full of Welsh sheep poo.
Yeah, and God knows what.
So next we're going to loosen the 30mm. I guess you're going to loosen it for now because you're going to tap it through a little bit. To
Well, it might come through. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments. You're not using impact sockets. I'm a bad boy. I don't care.
Chrome will go home, innit? That's what I heard. Straight out.
Yeah, chrome will go home.
There you go. Chrome will go home, and that dry shaft is loose. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this whole assembly as is.
Only thing we're going to keep here is the brake, the actual brakes.
You're going to take the caliper off you? Yeah. So caliper's going to come off. This will be hung here, and then we'll literally unbolt from the rear here and the top there and pull the whole assembly out.
So with these carrier bolts, they're 18mm. You probably have to get a big breaker bar on them because a lot of them will be tight. So loosen one off, go to the other one, shut off kind of. Then I've got electric ratchet to make things easier, but I'd rather make it look like I work really hard.
Let's work on the 7.
So don't take them out all the way, then do the other one up. Take the other one out until it gets right to the end, then you can do them evenly.
So we're removing the bracket for the front headlight adjusters.
So there's that much Welsh poo on it. It's gone down from a 13mm, now we're on an 8mm. So we've managed to get a grip on this one.
Yeah,
That's why I said always best to clean the workspace first, otherwise you end up round and stuff.
And typically this sort of stuff swells over time as well, so sometimes...
Yeah, it's like all this, like all the, see all the, it's only the paint, but see like all the paint goes flaky on that.
So the plan is to remove that, and then we're going to try and remove the lower arm bolts, and then we're going to remove the top of the shock, and this whole assembly, you can see in front of you, should come out in one go, and it's the easiest way to be able to disassemble it all.
Key word in that
back in.
is should.
Should. It will. There we go. I'm sure it will, mate.
Will come out.
Bolts just vanished. There it is, right in front of you. We got it. So, for the bottom arm bolts, you've got 2 there, 1 there. They're both nutted on the top. This probably will be the most difficult bit you do in taking stuff off, unless that is fully seized. There's your own alert. You've got to try and get a spanner up round there. It's a bit of a pain, but it does get on. You've got to try and eye it without seeing. And then you've got one just behind that little flange. There's a bolt right there. You can't really see with the camera. There you go, right there.
What size are they, mate?
That should be... That's threaded, so you don't worry about this one. This one has all got a thread built in. These 2 are nutted. So I'm pretty sure they're 18, so we're about to find out. Let's find out. Those were 21s.
Over there outside. So the bottoms were whatever's in that one. 18. The bottoms were 18.
Yeah.
And the top spanners were a 21.
And then it was a...
The side of the strut was a 15. That's just a thread built into the knuckle, so you ain't got to nut and bolt it. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Any end bits that are exposed on the end, spray a bit of penetrating fluid or get the brush on it, get it off.
And the next step is the top mount, and then this will all come out.
Mount bolts are a 13, so it's going to gut these off. Get it on.
Yes, if you're keeping it all connected like we're doing, just make sure you keep someone here. So I've left one bottom arm bolt in under there. I left the end one in because it's threaded. So now everything's loose. So in theory, this should all come out. Just move the ladder for you.
Just give me a minute.
Sure you're feeling strong enough to...
Yeah.
Is that dry shaft going to come out with it, or is you... So you want to make sure you don't pull the dry shaft out.
Yeah, that's right.
Bloody dry shaft's trying to pop out.
There is one Volvo suspension unit.
Good drive home now.
That's it.
Oh, you just broke my my brake disc shield, but we'll probably remove it because it's knackered anyway. But yeah, there we are. So everything we can now remove is super accessible. The biggest problem we actually have here is this is going to be a bit tight, and that joint there is going to be rather tight.
So this bottom ball joint, that would be. So it's all split and it's all naff.
How are they all looking? They're all looking. Oh, that's looking a bit stringy.
So if when it's off like this, it's easy to do. So you just get a pry bar in there, or if you've got, we call it a slut spreader. Get it in there, twist it, prise it open. Same with the bottom arm. You can do it in there, it just gets a bit tight.
Yeah.
That's where it all got ruined, in my eyes.
Ford. Is that what it says?
FMOCO. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we'll get this all stripped in. Yeah.
So we're going to send the slut in for some work. How much does she cost in half?
So, sometimes they're a lot tighter and usually have to hammer them in, but this is quite out as it is, so try and find it in the tightest gap. With a little turn. Halfway. Get.
Don't trip.
Get this that hammer.
Yeah. So it's created a gap so we can get this out. All we're keeping from this shock assembly is just the inside bump stop and the cover.
So in case you bottom out, it doesn't absolutely annihilate the shock.
Yeah. And this little bit here. Actually, that's looking like that's just stood out a little bit. So yes, these electric shocks are going. Unfortunately for my age of model, it's £600 a unit, which I just cannot justify. So these are going with some standard shocks and springs.
If you don't have one of these, you can also use one of these.
Yep. He's on the hunt. He's on the hunt. Oh,
Pry bar.
Pry bar.
So if we get this out, you can get a pry bar. And you might have some where you have to hold this, get it in a vice, or
And you
get some, and you can do that. It's only got to be a little bit.
Yep.
Get a hammer. If someone has removed it and copper greased it like someone has, just make life easier. But you keep shouting, it's not as easy as what they do in the video.
No.
Sometimes it ain't. Sometimes it's easier.
It's this little bastard left now.
This is the last one. So we won't impact this off with
So what's perfect about this now, it's off the car here, as I was watching from a proper, actual official Volvo video, is you can stick a pry bar just in here, where this notch is, and you can actually get to it and pop it off quite easily. I've said that now, that's not going to go well.
Is
The wrong word. But it does just sit in there, and we'll pop that, hopefully, out. Fingers crossed.
So sometimes with certain tools, that'll only fit on a 3/8. What you do have to do, get it in there, grab the persuader.
I'll try and hold
Get
this
in.
someplace on this, doesn't slip off.
Okay.
Yeah. That did just move then.
Just want to crack it like that.
Oh, it's still bloody on there, aren't
Still on, actually.
it? Looks weirdly new compared to the rest of it. If you do it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is a different material.
Some stuff's like cast, some stuff's solid fucking shit. Ow.
God, that bottom ball joint is no longer a ball joint, it's like as flat as a pancake, isn't it?
Pretty naff.
This is what ends up happening with all the cars I buy over 100,000. I end up replacing most of it because it's just wear and tear, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't think these are maintenance parts, but they actually, like shock absorbers. If you look in the manual and stuff, they're actually maintenance parts.
What was bad with this shock absorber is this top mount was absolutely knackered, which we can't see right now. But when I was driving, it was going all the time. So this top mount here is knackered. We'll try and show you if it makes any noises in a minute, but that is definitely knackered. But actually, there was no other weird knocking or any noises from this car at all, which is pretty crazy considering the condition of the suspension parts.
Yeah. So luckily for us, you've unbolted this. Obviously, it's a pinch bolt. It's a pinch bolt. So this obviously clamps down quite hard and holds us in. Sometimes these are absolutely seized in, but for us, it looks like she has just come straight out.
Trying to find the right point. So, no. It is out, but it's just being naughty. There you are.
That never happens ever. So
And I just want to show you how bad that is. So that is literally flat. All right.
there's no grease in there.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll show you the new one now.
So this one, the top of the rubber is quite high. Up the other one was like flat as a pancake. you can actually feel the grease in this one. And obviously it's nice and stiff, which is good. Not too stiff, but as long as it's stiff, and you've got to use a bit of power to move it around. Before you do install new parts, just check, because sometimes stuff gets damaged in transport or not put on properly.
So this is a full assembly. They're both from Borg & Bet, so OE quality, and they should do a cracking job, more than what was on there before. So these are called def clamps. I don't like using these, but we have to do what we got.
Yeah. As long as they're in properly and they're all on the clamp. Some people have one clamp hanging off another one, and then they go, "Why did that ping off?" But yeah, as long as it should bite down like this. As long as you do it evenly, should be alright.
So all we need off this one is the centre and the rubber bottom.
Stick your foot on that at the back.
Yep. Send this missile flying all the way over to France. Top mount's in the way, isn't it? Here we are. We're playing with a dangerous weapon there.
Correct. So put them on even, as long as they're on. Just out of the way, but always have the side of it as well. Just double check they're all on. Still. Spring's not free yet. There's the other side again. So it should break free now. That's quite a lot of fucking.
Yeah, literally you can see it pulling the two apart. Yeah, these require a lot of. We'll show you in a minute. They require a lot of compression. We'll show you in a minute. That's literally the biggest compressors we're going to get. Harry don't care. He wants it so compressed that. Mate, you want to see how long it's to stretch?
So you see it, that one end's come off?
Yeah.
So lucky I took that off before. So do it evenly.
Yeah, it's like 600 videos.
Block reassembled, put the bump stop in, put both bottom and top pads in, top mount with a bearing. Getting it in will be a little bit harder, so if you put a little bit of copper slip in it, get the shock in the tiniest bit, put the shock upside down, put it on something soft so you don't damage the top of the top mount, and just lightly tap round here. Then you can tap on these here. When it gets to the top, obviously you won't be able to, you've got to go that extra couple mil. If you use a hammer on the bottom of this, just hammer very lightly, lightly tap, rubber mallet is best. These can break off, so be really careful if you do hit them. If you are going to hit them, put a rag round it and hit on the rag. Then getting this bolt on, be careful, don't impact that because that will strip, because I think it's alley that is. So do it nice and take your time with it. So these, what are they called again?
They are the
top mount spacers.
Shock spacers for the lift.
Yeah, they're called top mount spacers, and they go on top of it. So the car body will sit here, and if you line them up, look, all the holes match. So what will happen is it'll go, right there.
Yep.
The strut will go through there, and then they bolt into that hole. There's 3 holes in the centre hole. The centre hole is so if you can tighten that up, and the 3 bolts will go through the body, through them, and that is how much lift you're actually getting. Obviously the shock will help with a bit more lift because that is an uprated spring. I'm correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So as you guys can see, the latter part of this video is going to be done on the driveway at home because we ran out of time. So we did finish the install there, but I'm just going to show you the rest on the driveway because we just didn't have time to finish it. We had to stop the video and get on with finishing it off. So you've seen how to do the front spacer and the front shock, as well as the lower arm, if you want to replace all that sort of stuff, and all the suspension components. And I'm going to get onto the rear, so I'm going to quickly run through with you on the rear end, out on the rear, and I'm going to show you how to install the subframe spacers and the lift kit to the rear. Now, it's really quite simple, genuinely. It's 4 bolts for the subframe, 2 bolts for the shock, and 1 bolt for the rear spring. And that is literally it. It's as simple as that, guys. So what we're going to do first is you're going to use 2 10mm, you've got 2 10mm nuts to remove. You can use a spanner, but I recommend a socket. You're going to get up in there and remove them. So I'll show you the process now. Unfortunately, I've already done it, so I can't show you it while we're doing it, which is a little bit difficult. But I'll try and explain it to you as simply as I can without showing you, if that makes sense. So hello, and welcome to my lifted rear. Now, as you can see, this has been quite a few, well, I say weeks. It's just been a good 2 months since I've lifted it, actually. I'm finally getting around to finishing it off. So, what we're going to do is obviously here is the top mount. And this would originally sit up in here. So 2 10mm nuts, which are up inside here. One here. One there. Be careful, these do seize. So you need to be very careful with these. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove both of these on both sides. Now what I recommend is have the car up in the air and then stick a jack underneath here to relieve a little bit of pressure, because as you start to release these nuts, most of the weight, or pretty much all of the weight of the rear subframe, is literally held in by these 2 bolts. So you want to use a jack to hold the weight of the subframe while you remove these. If you don't, these can snap and they can pull the top of your, bend the top of your shock with the weight that goes through these, so make sure you do that. Drop these 2 out either side. These will then drop. This whole suspension assembly will drop a little bit as well. Now it does drop, but it's not enough to remove the spring. So what we're going to do next is we're going to remove the following bolt, and I will show you how to remove the spring. So obviously you want to keep the shock under here, drop this down, now put the shock back underneath again to hold the weight, and the nut we're going for is here, and that is a 15mm. Now the other end of it is already nutted in. I'll show you the other end for reference. The other end is there. That's already pre-nutted, see? So all you've got to do is get it through both sides. So again, while we've got the weight up on this, a little bit of pressure through this side of the rear subframe, we're going to remove that bolt. And then what we can do when that bolt is removed is, well, this assembly should push itself down. Now if it doesn't, you can gently hammer it, and this arm here will drop down. Now you don't want to remove the inside ones over this side here, because they adjust your camber, so just the outside one here, and that should be enough just to bend it or push this down. Now, a top tip to remember, when this spring drops out, you need to remember its orientation in the bottom of the spring holder in here. What it basically is to the left hand side is the start of the spring. So the spring is pointing, the end of the spring on the inside, the bottom is on this side. Now what you need to do is you need to trial fit the spacer on top of the spring, and then you need to put the spacer and the spring together on this. So you want to put this assembly together. Don't push it in hard, but just put it roughly together off the car, because you need to make sure the orientation is right, because if you get either of these wrong, this won't fit. So get that spring out, put this in, and then put the top. And as you can see, I sprayed a little bit of white spray paint on there, looks like bird poo, and that was just roughly, not very precise, but roughly aligned this with this. Once you've got that all lined up, you want to put the spring back in position, and this here, you want to get a press and use the top of the press to press this unit down. I will put a photo next to you to show you what it looks like. You want to press this spacer, and I'll put photos on this next to you so you can see what this spacer presses up into here and sits in there really nicely actually. So you want to push this spacer in. I tried to do it by hand, I couldn't do it. I ground down the surface, I tried to prep the material, it was not happening, so we had to press this with quite a bit of force up this shaft into a seated position. But obviously bear in mind, get this lined up first before you press it in, because you will not be getting that back out. Once that's pressed in, that becomes part of the top of the shock, and you can just put the allocated slot
against the allocated part of the spring, which is out of view. So in here there's like a slot, and it slots into where the spring sits, and then basically you can put the spring bottom back in here with the room you've got there, because this will be dropped down low, this arm. You can then push this top little nipple back in. Again, you would have seen the photos. Once it's all in place, you'll then use a jack to lift the arm back up to here to bolt back in. Now, top tip when you do it, make sure your jack is jacking up towards the front of the car, because if you're jacking it away, as in you're jacking it and it's pumping up this side, it will actually pull this further away. So you need a jack sat here, and to best show you what I mean, the end of the jack is here and the front of the jack is pointing this way. So as it's jacking up, it's pulling it this way, and then gently as you're jacking it up, make a hammer here and around this area, and just the vibration and the hammering helps just to knock this back over into its hole and up into place like that. It's a bit of a fiddle, but it's quite a simple process, and that is basically the lift on the spring part of the suspension done. Now, what I would recommend to do next, you can do this either way around, is to do your subframe spacers. You can do your subframe spacers with the standard spring assembly and do the subframe spacers first, then do this after. It doesn't matter, whatever. This is just the way I did it. So I've got this all put back in and bolted back in correctly. The shock was still dropped. Now your subframe spacers are underneath, so I'm going to get underneath and I'm going to show you what to do for those. Hello, so you join me under the car. Now, like I've just said, and I will repeat, the subframe spacers can be done first before the springs. You can do it either way, it doesn't matter. Either way, it can be done. And obviously, the only thing to remember when you do the subframe spacers is to make sure you drop those two the top of the shocks down, because obviously the whole weight of the whole subframe will go through those two shocks. So make sure you drop the shocks down. That's the first thing you do before you do any of this process. But let me show you where they are and how to do it. So here's the rear subframe. Mine, I must say, is pretty clean, with relatively new, well, pretty much brand new suspension all over. So the first two are here, so one here. They're both identical on either side of the subframe, so one here and the other one's up over there. I did these ones first, as you can see. Up in there, my little subframe spacer is sat in between the subframe. So what I did with this is basically I loosened all of them off first to make sure they could all be loosened without breaking, etc. So I loosened them all off. So 1, 2, and then the other ones are under here. I'm going to try and show you. And the others are there, which are basically either side of the fuel tank. So I loosened all of these, and these, at least on mine, were a 15mm socket. So I released all of them. So with the bolts pre-loosened, I completely removed this one. When it was then out, I could then push the spacer in over the top. You can get it from this side or from this side. When the spacer was in line, I then pushed the bolt back up through, and then I tried to bolt it back up. Now, it wasn't bolting back in because you've obviously added the length. You've got less length of the bolt to actually touch the car before you can bolt it back in. So what I did is I got a jack below where I am now, and I put a bit of wood on here, and I just jacked this corner up a little bit. By jacking up this corner, it shortened the gap to get the bolt back in, and that's basically what I did for each. So do one at a time, loosen, spacer in, tighten, 1, 2, and then your other two, which are up by the fuel tank over there and there. And it's quite as simple as that for the rear subframe spacers. So for the rear shock spacers, they're pretty self-explanatory, but as you can see, basically what you do is when you put the shock back in, finally, or pump all the suspension back up, you'll then sit your spacer on top of your shock between the car and the shock, and then you get longer bolts which are a 13mm, which you put up in both sides and tighten up. Make sure it's completely tight before you then drop the weight of the car back down, because otherwise you can damage the top of your shock, like I mentioned. But that, quite simply, is the rear end. And like I said, guys, I apologise I can't show you it while we're doing it, but if you do have any questions or want to know anything, just give me a message or comment on the video below. So your front subframe spacers, as you can see, first three are here, second three are here, and there's one up at the front of the subframe. So the two smaller ones in diameter, again, photo here shown, Those use a 70mm bolt, and you can just drop those two straight out, which are these two. They don't really form much of a structure, just be dropped down. They'll just drop down to give you space to get these in. The front ones also can be loosened, both at the same time or one at a time. I found it easier and a tad safer to do one side at a time, so I'll do 3 at a time, and they're a 21mm. And basically the spacer without the slotted fit, again, that you've seen, goes there. The 2 mini ones go here. So these can be dropped on one side and all 3 down, all 3 back in, and that's the same for the other side. Now the last one I'm going to take the wheel off for because it's hidden in the arch.
What needs to go on first?
This is the raw first reaction.
There's your bolt.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I can put my head in there, mate. Yeah, I'm hoping it does settle down. 'Cause that is actually bonkers.
What's the mortgage on that a month?
Oh, the rent? Yeah, rent it out. Yeah, £100 per arch, I reckon. Yeah.
Oh, go on the floor.